Hello, everyone. I'm Colin Tessier of WrestleZone.com, joined by John Clark tonight to talk about WWE Monday Night Raw. John, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. Pretty good show tonight, and I can't complain too much. What about you?
About the same. I thought the show flew by, at least by Raw standards, so definitely can't complain with that. Lots of stuff to talk about. Hell in a Cell build, continuing buzz slash controversy about Sasha Banks and Naomi, that kind of stuff, and let alone Raw itself. We'll get into all that fun stuff and more. Before we do, just want to remind you all this show, like everything we do here, is available on all our platforms: SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, all that good stuff. If you know where to find us, please do leave a like and subscribe. We appreciate it. So, John, we started off the show tonight with Riddle talking about how on SmackDown this past week, RK Bro lost to the Usos in the Tag Team Championship Unification match. Riddle came out tonight without Randy Orton, saying that Randy's it's been a really rough time for him the past a couple of years. And then he said, especially the past couple of months, he said Randy could barely walk before the match on Friday. Then he got beat down by the Bloodline. And he vowed to get revenge. He called Roman Reigns a tribal piece of trash. Then we had a six-man tag team match with the Street Profits and Riddle versus the Usos and Sami Zayn, the Bloodline's kind of stooge over on SmackDown. Pretty fun match. We got Riddle getting the win because the Usos banned Zayn and getting a little bit of revenge there. But I'll pause there because at one point Riddle did say he's not sure what the future holds for RK Bro. And I think that's interesting to kind of plant that seed of doubt there. And I just wonder what you think, like, what we're kind of looking at here.
It was a little weird, the opening segment, because I didn't know what to make out of it as far as like Randy Orton's status. Is there legitimately something going on? Is this just for story? Like, I'm kind of trying to understand because this is kind of coming from nowhere. I thought, if anything, it would have been the other way around, where Orton would have been there and then Riddle would have been gone because of the attack we saw on Friday. That obviously wasn't the case. So it was a little confusing, and I'm trying to figure out what to make out of it. Comment from DJ saying Riddle and Roman Hell in a Cell. That's not happening. I don't think Roman is not advertised for Hell in a Cell. I think we're getting Riddle and Roman at Money in the Bank in July, not at Hell in a Cell in 2 weeks.
I would agree. You know, Roman had been advertised for Hell in a Cell, now he's not. So I think it's pretty safe to say we're not going to get at least the Hell in a Cell. Draw it out to Money in the Bank. I do agree. It's interesting that Riddle was beaten up pretty badly on Friday. Randy didn't get all that much of a beat down or anything. Like they beat both guys up. Like Riddle got splashed to the table and everything. So if anything, I kind of agree. I would have thought they might be writing him off. But at the same time, Randy he'll take breaks. We've seen this plenty of times. Breaks it could be a couple weeks, nothing crazy, but just he's been pretty much a full-time performer for a while now. DJ points out, they said they're both made up. Riddle had taping or wrap on his ribs tonight to kind of point out that he was banged up. So yeah, they're both banged up. I guess the way it came across on Friday, it just didn't seem quite as bad, for at least for Riddle. Nesha says she was not expecting to see Riddle at all tonight. I think that would have made sense as well. But at the same time, I thought like this, and then I think it would have been fine to not have him on the show to kind of sell that even more. But I'm not going to complain. It was a fun match. Brian says he's happy Riddle's getting pushed. This was the most we've ever heard Riddle talk. Riddle he'll make jokes and it'll be fun and upbeat, whatever. This was him actually cutting a serious promo. He was mad. So this is actually a different side of Riddle tonight. Now you and I have talked about for a while. Not the biggest fan of Riddle, but I was at least glad to see some layers here. So to kind of plant the seeds for this match Roman whenever it does happen.
Yeah, the promo was decent, and then obviously the kind of brawl that followed was entertaining. I just thought all of that sequence from the opening to the brawl lasted a little too long. It seemed like Riddle was kind of ranting. You could clearly, I mean, obviously all of the promos were scripted, but you could clearly tell he was like reading off of like pre lines that he was memorizing and things like that, and it didn't really come across that smooth. In fact, from 8 o'clock, the actual match didn't start until 8:25 p.m. So it was 25 minutes of rambling, entrances, brawls, you name it. Um,
Commercials, of course.
Commercials. Yeah, there was a commercial break about 10 minutes in there when Riddle finished up there at the beginning. So I mean, I guess this would imply that Orton's going to take a month or so off. I mean, if the plan is for him to kind of compete against Roman at SummerSlam, I wouldn't doubt if we don't see him until like Money in the Bank in July. Maybe he takes a month off or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's in this case, it kind of seems like it. I don't know what they'd really do otherwise, because they are trying to build. At least right now, it seems like this single feud here for Riddle. Randy being around would make that a little weird, and the Randy being gone, it's like kind of. And I guess at least the storyline banged up, helps the storyline along a little more. Um, so yeah, I mean, Randy's been on a great run. We really enjoyed our RK Bro. I know a lot of people did. And as Riddle said tonight, not sure what the future holds for that, but at the very least, we're going to look forward to seeing Randy come back potentially for a match with Roman at SummerSlam. Like that'd be a lot of fun. I believe that's one of the rumored or reported matchups we can look forward to. Supposedly, obviously take it with a grain of salt, but that was at least put out there. So yeah, I think it would make sense. And as I said, Orton often will take some time off, so he's been going pretty hard for a while now. So I guess it all lines up, and this is where we're at. So can't complain with that. Kevin says, yeah, they said Randy's been having back problems. I don't know if that was for the storyline or anything. I mean, maybe there's some truth to it. I don't know. But regardless, the guys obviously are going to earn some time off. And National points on maybe Riddle will win Money in the Bank. I mean, I would think if we're not going to see Riddle versus Reigns at Hell in a Cell, you'll do it at Money in the Bank. So I don't know. Like
I don't see Riddle doing double duty at Money in the Bank.
No. Yeah, and even if not for this thing of Roman, I would say I could see it, but they are very clearly setting this up. So on paper, I like the idea, but with what we're already kind of playing the seeds for here, definitely seems like we're going to get the singles thing. So yeah, Brian says, oh, I think he mentioned the report. It was Riddle, Orton, and Drew McIntyre for Clash of the Castle in September. That's something that everybody's been assuming would be the case for a while now. So no big shocker there. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I like the potential for the long-term story here. I don't know how they're going to draw it out all the way to Money in the Bank. That is quite a while, and we're already kind of, pretty clearly going in that direction. So we'll see. But I think it'll be a good match, and I'm looking forward to it, especially with this new layer for Riddle tonight. That takes us to another feud we can look forward to actually seeing a Hell in a Cell. Bobby Lashley and Omos, they are going to have at least one more match at Hell in a Cell. This will be their third match at a premium live event. They had a steel cage match last week, so it's 4 total matches. Lashley took the 2-1 advantage last week in that cage match. But for whatever reason, John, he said he still has a lot to fight over Omos with. So they're going to fight again at Hell in a Cell. He had the Almighty Challenge, and he wanted to have a stipulation for the match. So he said, all right, I want to fight MVP. Winner of the match gets to pick the stipulation. Omos helps MVP win the match. He basically attacked Lashley, and the referee counted Lashley out. So MVP got the win. We don't know what the stipulation will be yet, but at the very least, MVP will get to pick it. Lashley locked him in the Hurt Lock after the match as a little bit of revenge. But as it stands, the ball is in MVP's corner. At this point, if it's not a Hell in a Cell match, John, what are you really thinking we might see here for this 4th match between these guys?
Oh, that's an interesting one. As far as what match they're gonna pick, I could see them doing something stupid like a handicap where they involve Cedric somehow and MVP and make like a 3-on-1 match or something like that, or 3-on-1 tornado match or something. But realistically, I think they're gonna keep it fairly simple. We're gonna see like something just like a falls count anywhere. I would assume just something kind of simple, but not a normal match. Hell in a Cell. I mean, they did kind of tease Hell in a Cell when they said Lashley and Omos or something like Omos survived the cage, but Willie survived the cell. I think they said something like that, which was confusing because that's not a match that they made official. But the match itself tonight between MVP and Lashley wasn't nearly as competitive as I think it could have been. It was mostly just Lashley kind of throwing around MVP while Omos tried to interfere and lurked around the ring. And then, of course, the screwy finish as well. Uh, Lashley delivering that promo earlier in the night, he needs a manager and he doesn't have
Yeah.
one. That's why he had one in the first place. Listen, I know it's a very small thing, but this irked me so much because he did it 3 times. The event is called Hell in a Cell, not Hell in the Cell. Because he called it, he kept saying like, "I'm gonna beat you up at a Hell in the Cell," and it's like that's not what it's called. It's like calling Money in the Bank Money in a Bank. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like it's
yeah,
just not the
no,
same.
just small enough.
Uh,
That's a big difference.
But then I get it because the match is like they call it the cell, so
Right.
like Hell in the Cell. I mean, whatever. I'm just grasping at straws here, but the way Lashley kind of put MVP into the ring post too looked pretty ugly there at
Yeah.
towards the end of the match. So it was good. I continue to say that Omos needs to win this feud, but I'm not convinced that's what's going to happen at this point.
I'm the same way. Like I've said from the start, if you're going to do this, it makes sense to use it to build up almost, and having him lose the feud entirely wouldn't exactly do him a whole lot of favors, especially having MVP in his corner. Like if he's already losing his first feud with MVP, it's not exactly getting off to a hot start in that sense. He got the win WrestleMania Backlash, but I feel like he should win here, but at the same time, I think there's definitely a big money match to be had with Roman and Bobby, from Roman and Bobby Lashley. So if you want to kind of set Bobby up for that, but then again, if we're going off of that report that it could be Riddle, Randy, and Drew, that kind of carries us through the summer, early fall. So in some ways, maybe almost wins, and then Lashley gets built back up after that. But Brian says Lashley needs to get put back in the title picture. I agree. I just wondered about, again, it's all about the timeline. I say this every week. It's all about the timeline. So it doesn't have to be right now, especially if we're going off of that idea that, the next several, when you have the two world titles kind of consolidated, it does make it a little harder to have these to have a lot of variety, which challengingly feels like it's a little harder to get back in the title picture in that sense. So some more ideas for stipulation here. DJ says it could be a 3-on-1 Hell in a Cell match with the Cedric Alexander being the third man, presumably. Steven says no DQ 3-on-1, maybe the same thing, a handicap match there. I mean, yeah, I feel like MVP is going to try to do something to really stack the odds in Omos's favor. 3-on-1 kind of thing would make sense. I can't really think of anything else. I don't know if this is strong enough for a Hell in a Cell match, even though John, you had said they kind of mentioned that. Like, I don't know if it's quite there. They usually do at least 2 per show, so I guess that makes sense, right? I don't know.
I'm still thinking that the Belair, Asuka, and Becky match is going to turn into a Hell in a Cell match. But if it doesn't, then there could be an argument made, I guess, for that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it should be the Raw Women's title match right now. Ronda Rousey does not have a match at the show, so I wouldn't imagine they're just going to throw her into a Hell in a Cell match necessarily. Becky, Asuka, and Bianca would definitely be a good match to have in Hell in a Cell, so I think that'd be good, maybe more deserving, I guess. Dieter says another stipulation, maybe they'll bring back the 3 stages of Hell match. I always like that. It's a nice way to have multiple stipulations in one. But again, I really think they're going to really try and just MVP is going to try and really do all I can to give almost upper hand. So, yeah, I'm thinking some kind of handicap thing. Eddie pointing out maybe we'll do our Bro and the Usos Hell in a Cell. Again, it seems like Randy will be taking time off. That's not confirmed or let alone reported so far that I've seen, but this seems like based off tonight, it's like, okay, he's banged up. He'll be, he's at home right now, and Riddle's acting like he'll be gone for a while. So I would imagine one of the matches on the card will be they already know of will be the Hell in a Cell, but one match probably won't be Hell in a Cell, but I think it'll be very entertaining. We are finally going to get Kevin Owens versus Ezekiel. The setup tonight, yet again, multiple weeks of Owens doubting Ezekiel's identity with the lie detector test, with the fudged DNA test. Now we had another match with Ezekiel and Chad Gable tonight. Ezekiel wins. Owens challenges him to a fight, and it said it's for Hell in a Cell, so we're going to look forward to that. I don't think that's been 100% confirmed yet, but it feels like a pretty safe bet because we haven't actually seen that yet. I think that'll be good. They've somehow managed to keep this going without having a singles match yet between Owens and Ezekiel, so I'm looking forward to it. But especially tonight, like I thought we kind of spun our wheels a little bit. Like we saw this last week. It's been the same stuff with Owens, calling him a liar, all that stuff. Kevin Owens is great. It's still entertaining, but it's not really like compelling necessarily. Like it's not really progressing as much as I think I might want it to.
Yeah, it's weird that you say they haven't had a singles match yet because, in my opinion, this has been carrying on for way too long, and it's weird to say that when they haven't actually had a match. The tonight's series of events between all of these was, I thought, completely forgettable and kind of repetitive based off of what we've seen in recent weeks. There's only so much you can do when somebody thinks somebody is a particular person and that they are or aren't, which we all know, at least 99% sure that that is indeed Elias, which of course it's going to be, like we've talked about before, nearly impossible to prove otherwise. It would be possible in some scenarios, but most of them include holograms that wouldn't be realistic and therefore not believable.
Yeah.
So the feud, I think, should come to an end soon. But we talked about this last week, and I think the week before, and we have talked about it again tonight, is that if this feud is ending soon, like, what is the end? What is the end? Like, is the end just like Kevin Owens beating him up and sending him away for a couple months, then he comes back as and it's Elias, or is it just Ezekiel winning and shutting him up? Like, I don't understand what could possibly happen here to end this and allow everybody to move on.
We got some pitches here. Steven says he'll laugh his head off if Elias does show up, whether it's Hell in a Cell or the conclusion, whatever it is. Owens will have a breakdown. Yeah, there's something funny of like if it was a ruse all along, and Elias just comes out like it was me all along, Austin. I don't know. I guess that's one way to spin it. DJ says the storyline will come to an end whenever it does. So he'll hopefully involve Elias coming out as some kind of ghost or an image, like a hologram kind of thing going and helping Ezekiel win. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really like doubting how much like smoke and mirrors we're gonna get. I mean, there was one thing in the Thunderdome era when they did like the eye for an eye thing and cinematic matches, but like these are live shows. Like you got to really like think, what can they do live? I think a hologram like is feasible. They could do that. I'm saying like I don't know how much they're really gonna want to go out on a limb and do something too crazy. Something crazy like Eddie's saying, Ken Owens and Kevin Owens versus Ezekiel and Elias at Hell in a Cell. That would be that'd be a sight to see. But yeah, I don't know what the end game is. It'd be interesting if they did something where in the end, like Ezekiel is like quote unquote he is Elias. Sorry, Ezekiel is Ezekiel, and then eventually Elias does come back, and then like they kind of like interchange. So you have like Ezekiel wrestle one week, Elias wrestle the next week, and I don't think you ever have them.
The thing
together.
is, his beard was so big that like it's impossible to grow that much in a week, and even
Right.
if they use a fake one, it's almost impossible to make it look genuinely believable. And if they want to
Yeah.
go the silly route of making it just obviously fake and he's just doing it to be funny, then I think that is territory of him just being in the 24/7 title scene at that point.
Yeah. I do agree with DJ's idea about having Elias return and like Kevin having a mental breakdown. Maybe a mental breakdown so bad he'll need Alexa was his therapist that she referenced tonight. Otherwise I don't really know what the end game is here, but I think I'm in agreement with you. Like it's already been going on for well over a month now. I was entertaining at first. It's like Kevin Owens is still great, but like not exactly on the edge of my seat here. Like, oh, I gotta know what's gonna happen next. I'm more anything just like kind of curious because it's such a weird situation to begin with, how it's all gonna play out. But we can look forward to seeing the match of Hell in a Cell. And I think Owens is great. Ezekiel's very good. / Elias is very good. So I think it'll be a good match. But well, wait and see how Hell in a Cell progresses. It one thing was not announced for Hell in a Cell, but yet again another ongoing story here. Judgment Day came out to the ring, cut a promo as they do, kind of standard stuff. The truth will set you free. They're talking about the new selves and everything. Edge cut a promo. Like Edge is part of the promo. He was talking about recruiting another member of the Judgment Day. He's talking about he referenced Corey Graves, Alexa Bliss, Drew McIntyre. He mentioned Tommaso Ciampa, who's one of the rumored / reported potential members of the group, a bunch of other people, and AJ Styles. Kind of left it all saying like, who could it be? It could be any one of these people. And then that led to a tag team match, AJ Styles and Liv Morgan versus Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley. Kind of the first kind of true clash between the two sides here in such a tag team match like this. As Eddie points out, interesting / questionable was that Finn Balor was not out there to help, especially when the good guys, I should say, were getting beat down after the match. Edge helped Priest and Ripley win the match, as they probably should have. The heel stable should kind of get the win here. So Judgment Day stands tall yet again. And even with this newfound alliance, Finn Balor not being out there, cost them tonight because they were still down a man even after they gained one with Rhea Ripley last week, or sorry, with Morgan last week. So not exactly what we're going to see coming out of that. But Brian says it's a fun match, and I would agree. And I thought Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest make a pretty good team. So I'm coming around a little bit on Judgment Day. Like when they like tone down the campiness and the goofiness, I'm a little more into it. I don't know. I'm coming around like maybe ever so slightly.
Yeah, Edge's promo was pretty good before all this, but like the previous segments he's done with Judgment Day, it just lasted a little too long. I know that's kind of been the theme tonight, things lasting too long, but at the same time, they drew out stuff more where there was no 24/7 stuff. So like they're kind of drawing other things out longer to kind of not waste their time, so to speak. But he could have said everything he wanted to say in like half the time, and it would have been probably more, you would have remembered it better if he just kind of got to the point.
Yeah.
Now, Finn Balor apparently had other things to do tonight, but I'm not going to hold it against him because he wasn't at either of the live events this weekend either. Part of me thought maybe this was a tease because Edge had possibly named Finn Balor as a member to join. And I'm thinking, well, maybe this is like to plant the seeds where they're going to confront Balor, be like, where were you at? You weren't helping us. Balor might make some excuse. And then later down the line, whenever he does eventually turn, because I am still convinced that SummerSlam will be Finn Balor versus AJ Styles, that Finn Balor is going to slowly but surely kind of stray away from Styles and over to possibly become the demon for Judgment Day, which to me would be one hell of a group. You
Yeah.
got Edge, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley, and I think that would be very cool and a potential down the line to counterpart the Bloodline if the Bloodline were to possibly get a female competitor.
Yeah. I like the idea a lot. I think Finn versus AJ at SummerSlam could be great. Eddie points out the Judgment Day has a history of dark side of characters, and there's something really interesting, like you mentioned, Finn Balor the Demon, something about like Edge drawing out Finn's, not to reference Damian Priest's inner Damien, but something about the actual idea that he's got this inner demon. I feel like there's something pretty cool there. I like that idea. Especially as some of these other options that have been at least floated around. Laura and Kevin both point out. I mean, Edge has been tweeting out a bunch of like teasers on Twitter. He tweeted a picture of Paige. He tweeted a picture of Corey Graves and Finn Balor and AJ Styles. The people he said tonight. He tweeted a picture of Ciampa. He's really just trying to like throw out a bunch of kind of red herrings or breadcrumbs to kind of like point out all these possibilities. As Steven says, there are a lot of options. And he agrees that he would like to see Judgment Day feud with the Bloodlines. And you mentioned the female competitor there, Naomi, if everything works out there, but that is very much up in the air at this point, will definitely be a very logical option if things work out well. Don't know about that potentially, but yeah, I definitely like the idea of Finn Balor. I think that we talked about the possibility last week. I like the idea that anybody working with Edge, I think, benefits from just the general importance / kind of prestige that the Edge brings. So I definitely like that idea, probably more than most other options at this point. Like I like the idea of Ciampa, but I think there's realism there with Finn Balor. AJ Styles, like maybe, but like I think Finn Balor is the most clear kind of like. I don't know. I'm liking that the most at this point. Edith points out that Edge has backstage history with all the members of Judgment Day so far. Don't know much about his history with Finn Balor. I don't know. Can't recall them really interacting all that much. Reportedly, Edge picked Harland of NXT as the fourth member before he got released. Unfortunately, so maybe plans clearly have changed. But I'm liking the Finn Balor thing. Did you just what about something like KO? I mean, I like the option of Judgment Day being for like elevating people or like revitalizing people. Like Kevin Owens is doing like great right now, and yeah, like he lost WrestleMania. He might lose to Ezekiel / Elias potentially, but he's not at a point where I feel like he really needs to be like rebooted, I guess. Whereas like Damian Priest is like definitely turned heel. Rhea Ripley turned heel, then joined the group, but now it's like full on heel. Like Finn Balor, would that be presumably like 100% turn from babyface to heel? Owens like he's like what I'm saying, like he's already a bad guy, like he's already like embracing his dark side in a way. So I like the idea of him because he's a world champion contender, or at least in a way. I'm like the Finn Balor thing though. Stephen Chambers says Joe Gacy of NXT film Judgment Day. Gacy like tweeted, he retweeted something of Judgment Day, and like it was like emojis that made it seem like he was like, it was not a smiley face, but it's a little something like that. It seemed like he was liking what they were selling. Potentially, I don't know how long things going to go, but for people that are on the roster right now, like the idea of Finn Balor. So looking forward to seeing that. Something else I was looking forward to seeing tonight when it became a thing: Alexa Bliss versus Nikki Ash, former tag team partners. Way back in the day, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross were former women's tag team champions. I myself have always wanted to see them get back together, but I'm still happy to see them at least in the ring at the same time to reference the history. Alexa referenced it in a promo, which was appreciated. Alexa got the win. She's undefeated since she returned. John, thoughts on Alexa Bliss's return so far?
I like the return so far because, as I mentioned before, it's kind of a hybrid of the old and new characters that she's kind of portrayed in her time with the company. Now, I'm not sure how long it's going to take to elevate her to kind of the title scene. I'm hoping that she doesn't get lost in the fold because, Lacey Evans has kind of been back and then not been back, so I'm kind of confused. But as far as the match with Nikki, like, I mean, it was fine. She won. There was no surprise there. It was a quick pace, kind of a quick match. Um, just, classic women's match that's between 3 to 5 minutes, pretty much.
Yeah, and like these two know each other so well. Like I'm pretty confident that if they got more time, it would have been even better. Just unfortunate, time constraints slash their decision to allocate the minutes as they do. That it was a fairly short match, but I thought it was good for what it was. Steven said, I mean, we talk about this all the time. Steven says, please get rid of the superhero gimmick and bring back the old Nikki. I mean, Nikki was kind of like talking to Doudrop after the match, and then seemingly again, Doudrop's trying to. I think her things trying to get Nikki to take things more seriously. The superhero thing definitely not a very serious kind of thing. So I think that's where we're going. I think it's a matter of being patient. So hopefully that'll happen at some point soon. But I definitely agree. Glad to see Alexa Bliss winning matches. I also agree that you have Asuka coming back. Lacey Evans, they have been a little like on and off with her. She will be returning to the ring next week. They did officially announce that she'll be in the ring for the first time since last February next week on Raw. So I can look forward to seeing that. Too much depth is not a bad thing. So I think it can be a challenge to have people get lost in shuffle like that. But I think it's good to have everyone kind of returning, and you have more depth and more matches, so you have less redundant rematches. So always a plus in my book. But the point about Nikki and Doudrop reminds me that, I mean, we do have this future tournament for the women's tag team titles. They were vacated on Friday. John, you and I are not going to talk about this yet. Obviously, with Sasha Banks and Naomi getting definitely suspended, titles have been vacated. So right now, as it stands, they only really have one team in the women's tag team division. Reportedly, as DJ points out, there's at least a rumor / report that they will call on NXT teams potentially to at least fill some of the depth here. For NXT, the one thing that I saw reference, like Casey Canzero, Katana Chance and Caden Carter as one of those teams, and that's probably one of the leading contenders other than Toxic Attraction. But any thoughts on potentially having NXT teams in this tournament / who else could possibly be in this tournament?
I mean, your alternatives are pairing random women together, even though on an already limited roster. You got Natalia and Shayna Baszler if you want to go that route, and you have Nikki Ash and Doudrop if you want to do that. That's your two teams that you have to right now. If you could persuade and they were cleared the Bella Twins to come back to make it a bigger deal, they would probably win the whole thing, which wouldn't be a bad thing. That's a third team, and then if you have an NXT team, I mean, a 4-team tournament would be good enough, I think, for what they have.
Yeah.
So you could do that. Otherwise, like I mentioned, it's going to have to be random teams. DJ, saying maybe Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade. I don't think that's going to be a part of the plan. I think they're going to stick to what they're doing right now. Now they could also redo the Carmella and Queen Zelina team if they wanted to, even though there's been some bad blood there recently, which would kind of make it a little awkward. And then you have the Dana Brooke and Tamina team that you could also do. So you could pair together 4 to 6 decent teams that would make sense in order to do this, but out of all those teams I just mentioned, I would probably say that Doudrop and Nikki ASH would probably win unless they wanted to go Natalya and Shayna. But I'm going to say Natalya and Shayna no, because the SmackDown roster is so bad right now for women that Shayna is almost guaranteed to be the next challenger for Ronda, because there's history, and like I mentioned, there's a story they could tell for a few months to draw things out until hopefully the dust settles on Sasha and Naomi, and Bayley comes back, and Charlotte comes back as well. You have 4 women on SmackDown that are going to make the division from here to here when they come back. So right now they're kind of in this phase where they need something to hold it over, and I think Shayna and Ronda would be perfect for that. I mean, let's not we have to acknowledge what a kind of a blessing in disguise Ronda is. If Ronda wasn't there right now either, like SmackDown would have like no, but like literally no women's division. Period. Like their top females would be Natalya and Shayna Baszler, and I mean at that point you'd have to keep Lacey Evans on SmackDown. You wouldn't have choice.
Yeah.
But it seems like they are kind of trying to stack the Raw side, which has worked. I think ever since the draft, Raw has kind of turned into the premier show again. It might not show ratings wise because it's not network TV, but certainly quality wise, I think Raw has taken over as kind of the top show each week. So we'll see what happens in the women's tag division, but I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of just forget about it for a month or two and then magically it just happens.
Yeah, that would definitely not surprise me. You bring up the thing about Shayna and Natalya potentially. Shayna being a very logical, reasonable, likely contender for Ronda Rousey here. I mean, it's worth pointing out, at least as according to the reports, that they were planning on having Sasha Banks and Naomi challenge for the titles individually, even though they were the tag team champions. So I don't think they're exactly mutually exclusive. You could have, depending whenever the tournament is, we still don't really know when it will be. But they could potentially do that whenever they choose to have Shayna challenge for the singles title and be a tag champion as well. I think that's just a dynamic of having so little depth in the first place that, you know, I think that's kind of a little inevitable in some ways. Some ideas for DJ saying maybe if they wait a little bit, they could do Bayley and Charlotte. Potentially Charlotte will be out of action for a little bit. In storyline, she's injured. In real life, she's getting remarried, so she'll be away for a little bit here. But Steve definitely agreeing about the SmackDown Women's position being pretty thin. Bayley coming back would definitely help that, as he points out. Again, I don't know when that's going to be. She's gone for almost a year now, so hopefully she'll be able to come back soon. But yeah, especially with the Sasha Banks Naomi thing, definitely lacking in overall depth, especially on the SmackDown side. So. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Bella Twins. Like, they have some options. I do like the idea of having at least like kind of one NXT cameo team, just to like showcase NXT a little bit. I think Katana and Caden would make a lot of sense. Just to fill out the bracket a little bit, because again, if you're looking at ideally even just a 14 bracket, I mean, I think that's what we're shooting for at this point. They would definitely be a deserving one for it. Whenever she comes back as well, again, a lot of uncertainty. See what's up, maybe Io Shirai whenever she comes back. I'm not quite sure when that's going to be, but definitely someone that could easily, I would think, do very well on main roster whenever she does come back. So they have options. Like on paper, some of these things are a little complicated. Of like, okay, when are they going to come back? How can they slot in? And I don't know. They're very much going to have to wait and see with that. But overall, being as a little bit of a sidebar, Eddie points out at least his hope or prediction that WWE will settle the problem with Sasha and Naomi because WWE cannot afford to lose both of them easily. In terms of maybe the depth that we're seeing, the depth problems we're seeing here, Sasha Banks definitely a big star appeal in that sense, and Naomi, people love Naomi. So like,
I mean, not what we've seen from the report that WrestleVotes put out, basically saying that there's a standoff that could potentially be coming where the superstars are necessarily staying out of it, but management is kind of standing their ground with how they feel about it. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what what comes out of this.
Yeah, it's an ugly situation. It's a bummer to say the least. Like, it's just kind of it sucks. Like overall, it just sucks to see it's kind of happening. And it still keeps kind of spinning. They weren't at SmackDown Friday. They reportedly weren't at Raw tonight. They're just kind of missing because they walked out, and there's no telling how it's going to unfold. There's no telling how long it's going to last. And it's a shame because they're both very, very talented, and they both could definitely benefit the company overall. As they had been, they were having good matches. They're having a good reign as champions, and it's just unfortunate. It's just a bummer, and I hope it gets resolved soon. But John, as you point out, not exactly hopeful that it will. I think
I'm expecting this to be drawn out all summer, and I'm not making anything out of the contracts expiring news because I believe that they'll both be frozen for the foreseeable future. So even if they were to expire in July, they still are going to have to work 2 months before that's going to expire. So they're basically in a lose-lose situation at this point.
Yeah.
If they froze it. Now there's cases where they haven't, but I can't imagine that would be a case here. So we'll see.
I agree. There are some connections with the bloodline here. Steven says Naomi has to come back to keep the bloodline happy. I mean, doesn't have to. Nobody has to do anything. I don't know. We can't speak for Naomi or Sasha Banks, the people, what they're thinking, how they're feeling. As a fan, I can say, hey, it'd be cool if Naomi came back and joined the bloodline. It's something we've been hoping to see for a while. Jimmy Uso, her husband, just did an interview 2 weeks ago where he was saying she wants to join the bloodline before all this stuff happened. Obviously things have changed, but if everything works out like I was saying earlier, that'd be great. I don't know how feasible that is, but and kind of likewise, I have a question saying, do we think Roman Reigns, and I'll add on to that saying by proxy, or Jimmy Uso will intervene? I can't speak for these people and how they're feeling, what they would do. I don't know. I would imagine that by and large they're just gonna kind of.
I don't think Roman cares as much as people think he probably does. I don't think he's getting involved as much as people might want him to. He certainly has the pull and power that people thinks he has, but I don't think he's going to use that pull or power. Now, I don't think Usos have any room to talk. I mean, they could have been fired 3 different times in the past 2 years, and they weren't. Now, I think Roman may have stepped in then, but for much different reasons. At this point, the Usos have been treated like the best tag team in the world. They have no reason to complain, and they have no reason to cause any drama that's unnecessary. Let's not forget, Naomi chose to do what she did. What do you want the Usos to do? Would you want them Roman to complain or say that the women's tag division needs to be treated better? Which everybody thinks that, but they made a decision on their own, like many people have done before, and that's just how it is.
I think there's fault on both sides, and I think maybe that's why someone like Roman, Jimmy Uso, I think that it's up to the people directly involved, meaning Sasha, Naomi, and management, to kind of sort it out as best as possible. I don't know. Again, I really can't speak for the people involved. I don't know. Again, I'm just hoping that it does get worked out at some point soon, and that works out for the best. But in other news, maybe less depressing at least, during the show tonight, WWE announced Crown Jewel will be happening yet again, this time in November, Saturday, November 5th, back in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Obviously, way off in the distance, no idea what the matches will be, but at least worth pointing out. Look forward to that. That'll be one of several stadium shows in a row. You're going to have, I think it's Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, Clash of the Castle. I'm not sure about.
And then this one's after Clash of the Castle. There's no October pay-per-view right now listed.
Okay. So that would be four stadium shows in a row. So there you go. That's pretty cool, especially if they can get do good sales for them. So we've talked about it before. I was pleasantly surprised with Elimination Chamber and was it Crown Jewel, I guess, in October, right?
Yes, it was October and February, and now it's November this year.
So I've been pleasantly surprised by the last couple, the last 2 shows in that case for the Saudi Arabia events. So here's hoping it'll be a good one. Obviously,
I love in the advertising they did tonight that they put the location as KSA, which obviously stands for Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but they put KSA, I think, so people wouldn't necessarily connect the dots that quick.
Yeah.
even though it's obvious because that's where Crown Jewel's always been held, is in Saudi Arabia, but people like to get worked up. But the thing that interests me real quick about the timing of this is that right now we have Clash at the Castle on Saturday, September 3rd. And then after that, the next pay per view scheduled isn't until Saturday, November 5th for Crown Jewel. So right now there is a full 2 month gap in between pay per views, which is really not heard of. And then not to mention at Crown Jewel and Survivor Series, then you only have a 3 week gap in between. It's a little weird, just the timing of all of this. You would think they would have had Crown Jewel maybe 2 weeks earlier
Yeah.
in October, like they have before. So there potentially could be a pay per view added, like October 11th, 12th, around there. Uh, I'm not sure though, but definitely interesting that they kind of announced this out of the blue tonight. Um, we'll see what they have planned, but yeah, that will officially make 4 stadium shows in a row, and then they'll return to the TD Garden for Survivor Series indoor. So hopefully it's successful. We'll see. Early numbers show Money in the Bank sold around 20,000 tickets. SummerSlam is, I think, a little over 30,000 right now, and I think Clash at the Castle was over 40,000. So we got 20, 30, and 40,000, and I think the Saudi shows usually sell out, which is about 20,000 as well. So all 4 of these are above 20,000 right now, which I think is pretty good. I mean, it's more than an arena could hold. So obviously their plan is working somewhat.
Yeah, for sure. I at least for my own opinion, at least my own 2 cents, I don't think they're going to do a 2 month layoff of pay-per-views slash live events, premium live events between Clash of the Castle and Crown Jewel. I have to imagine they'll add like something in there like that. As long as I can recall, I can't remember them do that happening. Like
they would normally add in something like TLC or Extreme Rules. TLC is usually in December, but I wouldn't doubt if they moved it to October, that or Extreme Rules.
Yeah, they had Extreme Rules in September last year, so that they could easily just push back a little bit. Like I have to think they're going to do something to kind of bridge the gap a little bit, because that's a long time for them, especially just like to not have any PMI events, because that's what they do. So again, my at least early prediction, we're going to see that. We're still a ways away from it. But so sticking to the present, at least, DJ's talking about something I totally forgot about till just now. We had Veer Mahan on the King's Court, Jerry the King Lawler. Jerry said that Veer was a man of few words, and he wanted to give him a chance to kind of prove their reputation wrong. Veer proceeded to not say anything at first, and they only talked when Jerry basically said he was as hairy as a dog, and Bigfoot wanted to take a picture of him because he was so hairy. Okay. and then Veer basically said he chose to respond to the question about why he was targeting Mysterios, and he said that Rey Mysterio is so kind of concerned and focused on his son that makes him weak, and he wanted to kind of snap him out of that, I guess, or just take him out entirely. That's why he attacked him in the first place. And then he said, "Oh, I'll show you who I am" to Jerry. The Mysterios made the save, or the Dominics, as Jerry said, made the save. And then for whatever reason, Veer backed away from Rey and Dominic and then chose to fight another day. But pretty clearly seeming to suggest we're going to get some match of some sort. Don't know if it'll be Hell in a Cell. DJ wonders if it is a Hell in a Cell, could it be on the pre-show? Potentially. But at the very least, there seems to be some agreement that we are going to see like a handicap match between Veer and Mysterios at some point soon.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. Lawler's jokes were corny and pretty bad. The segment didn't really accomplish anything, and for the second week in a row, nothing that was done advanced this feud in any way, shape, or form. We've peaked where we can without having a match, so let's just get to the match at this point.
Yeah, and that like kind of like the Omos and Bobby Lashley thing. I'm gonna go with Veer. You got it. Might as well kind of really go with him, give him the win here over. Maybe if it's a handicap match, have him pin Dominic. That doesn't hurt Ray at all. That's fine. And then see what you can do with Veer, kind of going after that. I did point out, next week with the go home for Hell in a Cell, maybe we'll see some more matches added to the card. They're already loading up, especially on the Raw side. So I don't know how much more we're going to see on the Raw side of things. Maybe a couple more for SmackDown, but we're already looking at a pretty healthy card so far. But if they want to do the pre-show for Mysterio's Veer potentially, or that could be on Raw as well, or probably more likely we'll get the match a couple times and they'll draw it out. But looking forward to seeing that. Something else, we had another rematch. Speaking of rematches, and then we had Cody Rhodes, the Cody counter, or the Cody clock, whatever you want to call it, taking all night long. So we finally got to see Cody Rhodes versus The Miz. This was a rematch of Cody Rhodes' first match back on Raw after he returned to WrestleMania. Rhodes won that one. Rhodes won this one. It was a good match. Rhodes won this one by DQ. Seth Rollins attacked him. Rollins had a promo backstage where he said, "Where's my Cody counter?" He said, "My Cody counter is in my head. What's going to happen when it goes off? Presumably it's going to go off at Hell in a Cell." When they were going to face off in Hell in a Cell match, Rollins attacks him, whips him with his weight belt that he stole from the kid that Rhodes gave it to. And Rhodes, being the American Nightmare, took the belt back, limped over to the kid, gave it to the kid, and limped away. So Cody Rhodes, American hero. But John, what do you think about this match and the latest development of this feud here?
Well, he's only wrestled Miz, Rollins, and Theory on TV since coming back. I think he wrestled Kevin Owens in a singles wise in a dark match. Now, it felt like we just saw this with the match, the DQ finish. It felt like we literally just saw that, and then the whip with the belt after sounded pretty bad. He stole it from a young fan. Cody returned it to the young fan. The whole Cody countdown thing, I'm okay with it. It's only been 2 weeks. I see Steven saying not digging every week. It's only been 2 weeks, so let's not get too excited. We don't know if it's going to be every week yet. It could have been just, one or two. And then Kevin Owens was chipping in on the fun. I remain convinced that Cody and Kevin might feud next after this to kind of get things into motion before Cody's in the title picture. Not much to say else about the match. It was all right. Miz is kind of in that hold right now where like he's got nothing going on. He was involved with Ali, but that's more of a Theory and Ali thing. So like Miz is kind of just like a middleman in that.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of which, we got nothing with Theory or Ali tonight, and they were at both live events this weekend, so that was a little weird.
Yeah, don't know what's happening there. Sometimes people just aren't on the show. I don't know. I think it's a little weird to have the champion not on the show, but it's not the first time it's happened. Won't be the last. So maybe there'll be some kind of reasoning that gets out there, hopefully. But yeah, I'm not loving the Cody countdown. I think it's a little cheesy, but like, I know, like I can see why they're doing it. It's a little enough thing. I'm like, yeah, all right, that's that. They're just gonna do that. It's all aboard the Cody Rhodes hype train. That's fine. Thought the match was fine. I agree that it was a little redundant from what we've seen recently. I am looking forward to the Hell in a Cell match, so I think it'll be very good. Eddie says it'll potentially be the best Hell in a Cell match if it's booked right. Maybe he could have some weapons in there, a sledgehammer, some straps, like as we saw with the belts tonight potentially. I think regardless of weapons, I think they're gonna have a very good match. Looking forward to it. DJ points out that Miz has a lot going on, so maybe it's worked out this way where he's got Miz misses, returns the next week after Raw, I guess. Yeah, night after Hell in a Cell. That's not next week, the week after that, right?
I so badly wanted Miz to say something about Cody's reality show, like how it got canceled or canned or whatever. But I thought, well, they might not want to that might have been something before where Cody was like, let's just not talk about that. So
yeah.
But that was definitely funny because there are a lot of similarities between these two outside of the ring and inside of the ring. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So like it wasn't a bad match by any means, just like, but we already saw it pretty recently too. I thought it'd be nice to have Cody face somebody new, or at least that he hasn't faced since he returned yet. So I agree that there definitely are similarities. Like if they wanted to like run it back and actually have them feud, I'd be open to it. But like having already seen it twice now, I'm not exactly eager to see it again anytime soon. But definitely looking forward to seeing Rollins and Rhodes, presumably their last match for now at Hell in a Cell. Looking forward to seeing that. And that takes us to the main event, second week in a row, Becky Lynch versus Asuka. This time around, if Becky Lynch won, she would get added to the Raw Women's title match at Hell in a Cell with Bianca Belair as the champion. Becky won. Bianca was ringside on commentary. She didn't interfere, but Asuka accidentally kicked her, and that it was like an unintentional interference in the way because that let Becky get the upper hand. Becky wins. Becky's great. Asuka's great. It was a very good main event match. I liked it a lot. Becky wins, so that's now a triple threat match for Hell in a Cell, as we have been kind of somewhat predicting, at least some of the viewers at least have been predicting pretty much since Asuka came back. It's been the kind of somewhat obvious direction, and now it's official. Triple threat match for Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, I don't think there was any question that this was going to end up being a triple threat match at the pay-per-view. But we thought this for a while, and then we had heard a couple weeks ago the plan was suddenly going to be for Naomi to wrestle Bianca Belair, which was crazy. I thought this triple threat match we're getting now should have been the plan from the start. I did not like the ending of this match. It was sudden and it didn't make any sense. Asuka was about to get counted out at 9. She gets up, runs into the ring, and immediately lays down and gets pinned for a 3 count to lose. Why even go to the ring if you're just going to go to the ring and get pinned right away and not even kick out? Like, that didn't make any sense to me at all. But I get they were probably low on time.
Yeah.
Asuka probably heard, oh crap, he's at 9, I got to go. Get into the ring, lose the match. The kick to Bianca was nasty. It sounded nasty. It looked nasty. Bianca just sold it really well. At least I hope. Triple threat. I think the real question is going to be who's Bianca going to pin. I'm convinced it'll be Becky because Becky has kind of embraced her bratty side, and I think she's going to continue to have like this meltdown in the next couple months, and that opens the door for Asuka and Bianca to have a one-on-one match as well. And of course, even though SmackDown needs females pretty badly, there's unfinished business with Bayley and Bianca, and I think that needs to be a SummerSlam match if possible. So we'll see where that goes. But overall, main event, pretty good. And I mentioned, and of course I got backlash because I always get backlash when I make a controversial take online. This was the 4th week in a row that the women have main evented Raw. So that's something to be said there. That wasn't the controversial part. The controversial part was I decided to compare it to AEW Dynamite, saying that they've only ever had 4 women's main events ever, and Raw has had 4 in a row. It had mixed reactions. Some people saying that, and I don't understand this, but they're saying, women shouldn't be the main event every week. They're not the main event every week. It's only been 4 weeks. At the same time, like, Roman's not there, so Raw doesn't really have a champion. Like, it's literally Bianca is the champion. And then you have Cody and Seth doing their thing, and then you have Theory. So,
Yeah.
like, there's not much to choose from main event wise. I mean, I guess you got Edge. You could do that. But yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. But 4 weeks in a row for the women, nothing to complain about. I mean, I'm fine with it. I don't know what you think about that.
I think it's great. No, it's good. Yeah, especially right now, like you said, no Roman being around on a weekly basis. Having the 2 world titles kind of merged, like that does.
Oh yeah, and I'm looking at WWE's Twitter, and we were right, Colin. They posted that it's going to be just a handicap match at the pay-per-view. It's just a regular 2-on-1 Bobby and MVP, or Omos and MVP versus Bobby Lashley. And yes, as DJ said, they did make the match official between Ezekiel and Kevin Owens as well. So we were right with our handicap prediction.
And credit to a bunch of you guys as well in the comments who saw that one coming. I thought, as we were talking about earlier, like a 3-on-1 kind of thing would make more sense because, like, in storyline, like, how much can MVP really, like, put Bobby Lashley at a disadvantage? Like, not knocking MVP, but, like, come on. Like, I don't know. And just a standard handicap match, too. It's not even like a no DQ or anything. Like, all right, well, I'm sure we'll be fine. This main event match was very, very good. I enjoyed it a lot. Eddie's saying that the match will be a banger, will be very good. Asuka, Becky, and Bianca there. Brian predicting that Asuka's going to win. I'm thinking Bianca's going to have a nice long title reign here. Stephen agreeing, saying that Bianca's going to retain keeping the belt warm for Rhea Ripley down the road. I think at least that could be one of the big summer feuds potentially. For maybe that's the SummerSlam match. I think that'd be pretty good. We'll see what happens next week to see who gains more momentum. But all in all, I thought this was a pretty solid show tonight. So John, what would you say was your rating out of 10?
I think it was an average show. So I mean, I'll go a little over the average 7. I'll go 7.1 tonight. I don't think it was quite 7.25, but a little above average. So we'll go 7.1. I thought it was a pretty good match, or a pretty good show with some good matches, some good segments, but then also some stuff that didn't make sense. We'll see what they have planned for. We know always, the holiday shows are typically lower in ratings and lower in quality. It happens to be a go home show this year, so we'll see what the Memorial Day Raw brings us. Or unfortunately, I'm going to be on vacation, so I won't be here with Colin next Monday. But I'm sure that they're going to have to kind of tie up some loose ends heading into the pay per view. So, what do you rate the show, and what do you kind of expect at the go home show?
I'll go for like a pretty solid 7, maybe like a borderline 7.1. And part of that's just because there wasn't any 24/7 title stuff, because that's usually like an automatic like -1, or not -1 to the whole point, but at least minus like one tenth of a point. It's always drags it down a little bit. That was solid. As I said, I flew by. Usually Raw really drags on, though this one went by pretty quickly, at least compared to Raw usually. For next week, I mean, again, the cards for Raw, the Raw side's already pretty loaded up. I don't know much about loose ends necessarily, other than seeing who can get more momentum. Ideally, having I don't even know. I guess having one of the triple threat contestants gain momentum and stand tall. Again, if we're thinking that Roman's not going to be Hell in a Cell, I'm not sure how what's going to happen with Riddle and stuff like that. So maybe some of those uncertainties like that. I hope we see some clarification on. Kevin Taylor with 7.3, Steven with 6.5 for tonight, Laura with 7.3 as well. DJ says so was an 8 for him. He thinks Becky's going to get the title back. Again, I'm really thinking Bianca's going to hold the title. I'll say until at least SummerSlam. I think usually in WrestleMania time, it's usually the start of a nice, decent reign. So I'd be very surprised if Bianca lost, but I've been wrong many times before. I'll be wrong many times again. That's the nature of the business. So that's how it goes. But looking forward to next week, as you said, it'll usually be, it's a holiday, Memorial Day edition, so we can expect maybe not a drop off, but maybe a little bit. Michael with a 6.9 for tonight, though. So all in all, a fairly solid show. Otherwise, here, John, you'll be on vacation next week, but usually we're here on Mondays for Monday Night Raw. We're here Tuesday nights. Tonight for NXT, Tuesday night for NXT 2.0. 2 Dynamite dudes at Rampage. Marks and Dominic cover all things AEW. Robert and I are here on Fridays to talk about Friday Night SmackDown. We've got a great stream of interviews constantly coming out, you guys. Bill Pritchard recently interviewed with Ric Flair, which is crazy. Ric Flair, the legendary Ric Flair, was really, really cool. Say what we will about Ric Flair, but he's a legend. So very cool. That's he talks about his return to the ring, which is crazy as well. Lots of great stuff on all of our platforms, SoundCloud, Spotify, all that good stuff. You know where to find us. Please leave a like and subscribe. We really do appreciate it. And that being said, we all come together to do one thing above all others, John. And can you tell me what that is?
Enjoy wrestling.
Indeed. Thanks for listening, everybody.